GOP political strategist John Thomas is with me now to discuss the latest as it relates to the January 6th probe. Also, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a Democratic presidential candidate testifying before a House committee. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Great to be with you, Wyatt.
So before we get into the January 6th probe, picking off on the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. aspect of things, he is one of the many of the two people that is running against President Joe Biden, the other being Marianne Williamson, who I spoke with on the program just recently, actually. Obviously, they don't have a super high chance at being victorious, given the historical odds, the fact that when the incumbent president is running for re-election, it's never been done in modern history where someone has primaried them and then went on to be successful in the general election campaign. Why do you think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is in the race again, given the low chances of him being victorious?
It's a good question. I think he likes long shots. I mean, that seems to be the story of his career to some degree as an environmental activist. Kind of a David and Goliath story is kind of what he's used to. So I think he was compelled to run, number one, because he's really, truly passionate about the issues he's campaigning on. That drives him. And even if he doesn't win the nomination, I think he's hoping, like many candidates do, that they'll have helped shape the discourse and the platform of the Democratic Party and perhaps American politics. So there are other things other than just winning the primary that might be good objectives and achievable objectives. And the other is, we don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't wish it on him, of course, but I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Biden has a significant health issue on the campaign trail in the primary, is literally limps to the finish line or is DQ'd somehow, and RFK Jr. is the last person standing. So, and then the other thing is, if you look at Joe Biden's popularity, it's low. Now, you're totally right that the incumbents have massive advantages, but if the Black Swan event occurs, RFK Jr. wants to be the guy. I'm not holding my breath for it, but I think he's hoping that the stars align, and they probably won't, but he's hoping they do.
And he's running as a Democrat, but a lot of his viewpoints fit more of the Republican kind of stereotypical definition of things. His vaccination standpoints and his perspective on that over the course of the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, he was widely praised by some Republicans for, being unafraid to come out and call out the vaccinations. He also is very much a Republican on issues as it relates to government oversight. So a lot of people have floated the idea that perhaps he might have more of a future in the GOP than the Democratic Party. Some people have even floated the idea of a Trump-Kennedy ticket in 2024. What do you think the chances are that he builds a future in the GOP after this primary campaign if it, goes sideways?
That's interesting. It's kind of reminiscent a little bit of like a Tulsi Gabbard who ran for president. You may recall, as a Democrat, and now she's a fixture on Fox News. I don't really see RFK Jr. becoming a Republican. I mean, he's really not. On certain issues, he does align with them, but on the issue of life, he's adamantly pro-choice. He's not just like pro-environment. I mean, he's a climate crusader. He's anti-big oil. He's for more government regulation in general. I don't see a real alignment with Republicans. He does have some crossover support. It'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. My hunch on the matter is that he wants to impact our political discourse and try to leave his dent kind of in the universe. And that's his real objective here. I think it would be difficult, given particularly Republican primaries are generally not hospitable places for moderate candidates in general. That's not going to bode well for an RFK Jr. If he switched next cycle, for instance, and tried to run as a Republican, I think he'd get eaten alive.
And so just before we conclude here now on the January 6th probe, that's something that is getting a lot of discussion as well. The fact that former President Trump is now likely to face his third indictment. The second indictment that he faced, there was many of them. The first one in relation to hush money. There's a lot of issues that he is facing. There's the classified documents. Everything that is kind of tabulating together here makes it quite complicated. But the interesting thing is that his fundraising numbers and his poll numbers keep rising after any of these situations unfold. Why do you think that is? And do you think at any point some of these legal challenges that he faces could become a problem for him and his campaign?
I don't think the legal problems are going to be a problem in the primary. If nothing else, it's going to, I think, double down on the former president's resolve to get through, because the only solution to his legal problems is through this election and back to the Oval Office. I mean, there's really the problems are becoming so voluminous that odds are he's not going to have a favorable outcome in one of these different jurisdictions. So he has to march even harder. Now, does this become problematic for him electorally? I don't think so necessarily in a primary. Look, our politics in general, both on the right and the left, don't favor nuance. They're generally like, big bumper sticker ideas and slogans on both sides, whether it's Build Back Better or Make America Great Again. Like that's the headline. And by and large, particularly in the Republican electorate, most Republicans feel that these indictments are showcasing two standards of justice, one for the elites like the Hunter Bidens of the world, and then one for the rest of us. And so they feel that Donald Trump is being wrongly persecuted. And so that's why we're seeing his numbers tick up and up, because every time there's another indictment, the substance of the indictment at this point is lost. It does not matter. It serves to reaffirm the Republican electorate's kind of gut instincts that Donald Trump is being unfairly treated. So I think this will in fact propel him through a primary. Now the question is, Wyatt, what consequence, if any, does this have in a general election? Does it torpedo Donald Trump's campaign? Or is Donald Trump able to tell a similar story and express a similar sentiment, not with the hyper-partisans on the left? They think he should be behind bars. But the key demographics and independent voters in places like Michigan and Wisconsin and Nevada, are they going to feel that there are two standards of justice? And could this be a silver bullet for the president as he goes into November? That we'll have to see. I don't know yet.
All right, we will leave it there. That's GOP political strategist John Thomas. Thanks so much. Appreciate your time.